Now, back to Tech Talk Radio.
This is Danny Trejo, and you're listening to Tech Talk Radio, and you better keep listening or I'll come looking for you.
Welcome back to Tech Talk Radio. So I got to tell you, one of the things that is a constant in my household is Investigation Discovery, ID channel. It's on all the time. And it was a little while ago, I started to see an ad for a show that was coming our way called Undercover Underage. I remember saying, I think this show is going to be really important. It's not a show where they tell you stories of crimes that have happened in the past and, you know, the methods to uncover the criminal in this one. This is a show that shows a team working together to kind of to really try to stop some of the dangerous child predators that are out there. And I knew right away when I talked about this on the radio that I would say this is not a show that you would watch with your kids. This is a show for parents to watch, to absorb, and learn what is going on out there. And the person behind the show with her great team is Roo Powell. And I got to say, I'm honored to have Roo Powell on the show. Thank you, Roo, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're 3 episodes in. Another episode airs on Thursdays, of course, on Investigation Discovery. Tell us, where did this idea come from to actually take what you were doing with SOSA to make this a show?
I never expected this to be a show. And a production company reached out to me and said, we'd love to follow you around and film the work that you do. And immediately, my knee-jerk reaction was, I don't know that that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And then they made a really good point, and they said, you work so hard to raise awareness. Imagine doing that with 1 million people every week. And that's really what hooked me, because you'll see in Undercover Underage that we are going after specific perpetrators, but more than going after online predators one by one, I really think what's going to move the needle with online predation is awareness, and I'm really glad that Undercover Underage is able to do that.
Do you find, Roo, that many parents have no idea that their kids are having conversations sometimes with adults, and these adults are preying on them?
I don't think that parents in general realize the pervasiveness of online predation. And I think that's because it's relatively new. Snapchat's only been around for a decade. You and I didn't grow up with smartphones in our hands.
Yeah.
And so this generation of kids is really the first generation of kids with smartphones. I mean, the iPhone came out in, 2007?
Yeah.
So it's brand new territory, and, we need to kind of shift the way that, society has been parenting. So I don't think they realize how easy it is for someone to target a kid online either. It's not about, being a good kid or being a smart kid or being a kid that needs attention. It's not about any of those things. It's the fact that these predators are seasoned manipulators, and they are very coercive.
Well, the organization that you created, Safe from Online Sex Abuse, otherwise known as SOSA, how long has that been around, and what was kind of the spearheading to create this organization? Had you heard of stories where children had been victimized this way?
So I have been a career-long writer, and I've long cared about advocacy, particularly child advocacy. So I have gone to Southeast Asia to write about human trafficking. I've written about, poverty, refugee crisis, child wellness, that sort of thing. And then I was running creative for a tech company, and we were seeing predation happen online, just tech safety company. And I really believed in my heart that people did not know exactly what was going on. And if I could just screen grab one of these conversations, screen grab how malicious this is, and just put it on a billboard, I think parents would, immediately understand what's happening. I ended up writing a piece while I was at that tech company about predation, and it went viral, and I ended up doing some press on Good Morning America. And then after that, I realized this is the area that I really want to focus on. So I took some time to kind of study what nonprofits are like. I've always been in a for-profit industry, and I joined the board of a child wellness nonprofit, and I felt like that gave me some experience so I could start SOSA.
We're talking with Roo Powell. Of course, Undercover Underage is the show. It airs on Discovery. You could stream it if you have the Discovery app as well. But it's definitely one not to miss. If you're a parent and you're wondering, gosh, what is going on with the kid? And we think we tell our kids. I got to tell you, Roo, back in the 90s when AOL, remember AOL chat? You had chat rooms. And the whole bit. I remember my daughter was, I want to say maybe 13 or 14, and she would go and she'd be on the computer all the time. Now, I was a tech guy, so I was like, I know what I'm doing. I know it's safe. She's okay. And one day at the house, Roo, we got a dozen red roses for her. And I remember saying to my wife, number one, what 14-year-old, if it's the same age, is going to be able to send her a dozen red roses from Florida? And we lived in California.
Oh, no.
So we put the kibosh on that pretty quick. And it was rough because, you had to pull the technology, have the discussions. I even had a friend that was in law enforcement come over. And really, even law enforcement was kind of unaware, like how to deal with it. Law enforcement has really been kind of a good backbone for what you're doing by catching some of these predators.
Yeah, I mean, we do work in tandem with law enforcement. And, anytime we put a decoy in a city, we have law enforcement buy-in, so there are no surprises. I was a teenager in the 90s also. And I remember when someone told me that they were also 13, I was like, great, new friend on the internet, not realizing how manipulative that some of these people could be. And, it's become even trickier and it's become even more easy now. Like, I love technology. I think technology is great. It's allowing me to speak with you. It's allowing me to, FaceTime a sibling who lives overseas. We get to learn different things. We get to see what's happening in, Ukraine right now. But it's also an avenue that predators would use to abuse children. And so because that's an avenue, we need to think differently about how we approach things.
How does a parent, Roo, talk to their kid, when they decide to go ahead and spend, $1,200 and give them an iPhone or an Android device and say, here you go, have fun, show me your funny snaps. How do they protect them from these predators?
That's a great question. I have a teen and I have two tweens and they have cell phones. And, we put some training wheels on them. So they didn't start out with having access to everything, right? In the beginning, they could just text family members. And then it was, okay, now you can text and listen to podcasts and listen to audiobooks and play a game. And then we kind of, we let them show us that they're responsible. It's not, here's your phone, have fun on TikTok and Snapchat, and good luck. We have really open and honest conversations about what happens online. As a parent, I kind of liken it to the sex talk. You don't have the sex talk once with your kids. You have it frequently. It's a topic of conversation. And so cell phone safety is also a topic of conversation in our house as well. Like, Undercover Underage was originally going to be TVMA, and one of the reasons why we really wanted it to be TV-14 is because we were hoping that some adults could watch it with their teenagers, and it would be great. It would be a great starter for discussion around online safety.
Do you think, now my comment at the beginning of the show, maybe it's just for the parents to watch. Is it important for somebody maybe 14, 15 to sit down with the parents and understand and watch this? I
think so, and here's why. Your kids already know that it's happening.
That's true.
They're already aware. They're already in high school. They already understand, maybe not to what extent, maybe not to the pervasiveness of it, maybe not to how malicious these people are, but, it's not their cell phone. Their friends' cell phones have stuff on them, right? Like, they're on different apps and people are reaching out to them. But I do think it's important. And I've had parents say that it has been a great tool in teaching about online safety. And your mileage may vary on what you think is appropriate for your kids. Some parents have their 12-year-olds watch it, some not until they're 14. So, maybe screen it first.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, too. You could always watch it first and then go back and watch it with them. Well, and on the tech end of it, you're an advisor to Spectrum Labs. They work to help keep kids safe, online through text and even audio moderation, because people have face-to-face. FaceTime is so easy to use, or Skype or any of the other services. They could just suddenly pull up a video and there's the person there.
Oh, right. Yeah. And one thing that's great about Spectrum, and to really dig into the tech here, we take our conversations and the grooming patterns and the language that we see, and we remove all the PII, all the personally identifiable information, and we give it to the data scientists at Spectrum Labs, and they use that to train their artificial intelligence in order to better detect signs of child abuse. And Spectrum works with companies that are like social media apps, gaming apps, dating apps, because I think these companies are starting to realize that there is an onus on them to keep their user base safe, especially if they're opening up their platforms to 13 and up.
I'll tell you, some of the stuff that you go through, Roo, like, I watched the episode last week. Like, somebody needs to give that lady a hug. I mean, the stuff that because you're in there. For listeners that haven't seen it, I want you to watch it. You're a 15-year-old girl from what your character that you're representing as a 15-year-old girl. And these people are doing these things of video chat and sending you this stuff. And it's like, I can't imagine a 15-year-old child seeing this. And this is sadly what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, I'm sure it's painful for some people to watch me go through it because you can see me react. But I'm an adult, I'm almost middle-aged, and I have access to therapy and support and a cute little kitten that keeps me company. But imagine if it was it's actually happening to teenagers, and better me than a teenager. But what's happening is so many kids are afraid to talk to a caring adult about it because they don't want to be shamed. Yeah. And so a lot of these kids are dealing with this kind of quietly and secretively. Because what is online abuse? Like, nobody actually put their hands on me, but they're still being abused. And that's the thing with technology. Now you don't have to be in the same room or state or country as a kid in order to abuse them.
Now, I have noticed that the show has gone to lengths to, number one, hide the voice of the perpetrator, which makes it even creepier. But they do that. I mean, as creepy as it is, but and then you kind of protect the identity. Although I watch ID channel, so I go online, I find out, okay, that's that person or that's that person. Was that kind of a legal decision to do, just to protect maybe ID, SOSA, or it was just to say, listen, this exists in many people out there, so it's not just this one person?
We really believe in due process, and we want to continue to have the respect and support of, law enforcement and prosecutors. And, we want these perpetrators that get caught to go through the proper processes. And that includes a trial. That's their right.
Yeah, that's true.
So what we don't want to do is splash their name and face everywhere, because everyone still deserves the right to a trial. And we feel strongly about that. Now, getting arrested is one thing, but then after their sentence, then it's another.
Yeah.
And we really want to let law enforcement do their thing. So we are not in the business of splashing that around. And I know we definitely get a lot of heat for that, but I also want to protect an investigation. I also don't want to be the one that borks a case because I just put myself through all of that. I don't want it to come to trial and be like, oh, well, you guys, skewered him online. You obviously have a vendetta against him. When that's certainly not the case. We are just looking for a better, safer internet for kids.
So when parents get a chance to talk to you and ask you about the web and online safety, what seems to be the most general consensus of question?
Parents will often ask me, well, what's a good app? What's a safe app? And the reality is any app can be used as a tool to abuse a child if there's an opportunity to communicate. So we've seen it on coloring book apps. We've seen it on Words with Friends. We've seen it on, gaming websites that are geared towards kids. I can't say these are all the safe ones, these are all the unsafe ones, because that's a false sense of security, and you have to be vigilant regardless. Like, you have to, what game is your kid playing on an iPad or on the Xbox, and are they communicating with someone? And, that's really important to think about, because you could be playing a drawing game online and someone in the chat box will go, hey, does anyone want to give me their Instagram handle? I can show you photos of my puppies.
Oh,
and that's like the modern day version of, hey, little girl, can you help me find my dog?
Yeah.
He's lost.
Oh, and it's not a creepy guy in a van. It's a creepy guy on a keyboard is what it is. It's what you're running into.
And it might not even be a creepy guy. Like, he might be presenting as a nice kid, a peer, or somebody who's, I think a lot of the scary stuff surrounding this. The scary part is these aren't just like caricatures of monsters. They're not.
Yeah.
I can't look at someone and go, oh yeah, that's definitely an online predator. Some of these men are family men, or conventionally attractive, or they have good jobs, or they're respected community members. And, you saw episode 3 and there was a teacher involved. So, it could be really anyone. It could be the person in front of you in line at the grocery store checkout. So there's no rhyme or reason, and which is again why I'm very anti-victim blaming on this, because it's so expensive.
If somebody comes across this, Roo, this happens, and they're a parent, and they suddenly have found images on their kids' devices, what should they do? Should they contact law enforcement?
They should absolutely contact law enforcement. And, you can always block someone who's harassing your kid, but take screen grabs, hand those over to law enforcement. Sometimes law enforcement will take over a kid's account and, okay, give me your login and we can see what happens here. But, yeah, I would say definitely call law enforcement. And you can also file a tip with NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Very important. All right, I have to ask you. Okay, first episode I'm watching, and you're showing a wall of clocks, and I see the clocks, and I see Tucson, Casa Grande, and I'm thinking, uh-oh. And I said, they're working on it. Has there been a case in Arizona maybe we haven't seen yet? Can you tell me? Or should we be quiet?
I cannot share beyond what you've seen. I'm so sorry if that was jarring for you to see the under the clock. But I got to keep my time zones right. I have to keep my time zones straight. I can't say it's 6 o'clock when it's actually 9 o'clock.
That's true. Oh my gosh, that's right. Because you are being a detective at this point, and your crew, they're great. Every single one of them, they all work together. You all work great. They're all on top of it. They know, okay, I'm going to look this up. I'm going to look this up to really find the identity of this person.
We have to keep our story straight. We have to do the research. If somebody says, oh, what time do you get out of school? I have to remember that I'm this decoy who lives in this town, who goes to this high school. And we've already discovered that we've already discovered the school schedule. So I can very quickly say, oh, I get out of school at 1:53.
Man, quick thinking.
That's important because that's part of the trust building.
Absolutely. All right. So also, I want our listeners to check out SOSAtogether.org, SOSA together.org. And I want them to watch this show on ID channel, Investigation Discovery. It is Undercover Underage. Roo Powell, it is so great to talk to you. Now, I know we're 6 episodes. Have you heard from the network yet? Maybe could there be more?
Keep your fingers crossed.
They are, definitely. And I hope we get a chance to talk again. And thank you for the work you're doing and to the entire crew that you work with.
Thank you. I'll pass it along. And thank you so much for having me.
Very cool. Roo Powell, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more of Tech Talk Radio.